Wonderful. All right, so welcome to night number one. I'm going to share my screen, not desktop number one. No, no, no. Here we go. Share my screen, and we're going to slides. Where are we going? All right. So everyone can see my screen. I'm assuming everyone can see me as well. That is good. Firstly, it's not lost on me that all of you guys are busy, that everyone's got stuff on. So thank you for taking the time. Danny's picking up William from basketball. He's our oldest. She should be able to pop her head in soon. And just know that if you see two little people, everything's gone horribly wrong. They are supposed to be asleep, and that will have gone absolutely tits up before we've even started. So fingers crossed they don't come in, but all good. So, as you guys will have seen in, like in our comms, night one, tonight we're going to be talking about the simple science of fat loss. Okay. Now, just to kind of preempt this, there is absolutely no way that we could cover everything in an hour. Okay. So, just to sort of put everything in perspective, we're talking about the big topics, all right? The things that really move the needle. Now, all of you will have intricacies and different things that you're working through in your life at the moment that may mean that not all of this is 100% relevant to you at this stage. What I mean by that is that we've got a broad range in this group of ladies who are still breastfeeding, but also ladies who are in the midst of menopause. Okay, so there's a wide scope of ages here. There's a wide scope of lifestyles, a wide scope of preferences and experience. What I'm hoping is that all of you will get a little bit more clarity on what it is you need to move your journey forward over the next 2 to 3 months before Christmas. Okay, so for some of you, you'll be hearing information again that probably kind of reinforces what you already know. And for lots of you, this might be the first time that you've ever heard this type of like science on fat loss. Okay, so wherever you're at, hopefully you can take away something. And then if you do have any questions at the end, just message us anytime. Okay, that is what we're here for. I did also want to make this point. We've had a couple of people ask us about our actual coaching program. We're not actually going to talk about it on like on the presentations. Okay, this is information. This is like as much a workshop as anything. It's not just us telling you about what we do. Okay, if you'd like to find out more about that, you can message us another time. But if you're after details about how it all works, you're not going to get them here. Okay, so what we're doing, we are focusing on the big hitters. All right. We've got a lot of variety. And what we first need to do is that for all of us here, the stage of life that we are now in, we often get a little bit hung up on what we used to do. Okay. So the things we used to do when we were 22, 23, 24, 25, mid 20s, having fun, only person you are worried about is yourself, changes when you get to a new stage of life. Okay. So things that we would like to do or things that we would like to make time for get pushed to the back. Okay. So set challenges, apps, boot camps, all of these things that take a lot of time and nothing quite sticks. It's because we don't have all that much time. Okay. So every effort that you need to make about your health and fitness needs to be efficient. Okay. And it needs to be rooted in science. So lots of people that we speak to, and I will often ask people, okay, so what's the plan? What's the plan? What are you going to do? What is it going to be that you are going to rely on in your lifestyle to see consistent progress? And it's too broad. Okay, it's too broad. People just say, oh, I'm just going to try and eat healthily. And then if I maybe ask, well, what does that mean exactly? We might get to eat healthy ingredients, and then we start to kind of get a little bit quiet because maybe we don't actually have a rock solid plan that we're following. The goal of tonight and tomorrow night is to help start to shape that plan and give you something that you can do even on your worst day. Okay, because that is more likely to happen than our best day. For things to work when we're busy, for things to work when things aren't perfect. Okay, so that is the goal of everything that we do and the knowledge and information that we share. It has to work when things are crazy and busy. Now, a little bit of background. Now, some of you know us quite well. Clearly, I was not in charge of the formatting for this photo, but some of you have known us for less than 7 days in this group, and some of you, like I'm looking at the participants, have known us for over 7 years. Okay, so we've got a widespread here. We have been in health and fitness for over 10 years. We owned a gym for seven of those 10. We've branched out now into the online world. Basically, when we realized the effect that half an hour of nutrition coaching a week was having compared to 3 hours of fitness coaching a week. Like, we love the gym, we love training, we do all of that stuff. We're never going to say that gyms are bad because, well, I mean, I'm in one at the moment, but the point is, the impact that gym had on our clients' lives at that stage was not yielding the results that they ultimately came to us for. Because when people start at a gym, they typically want weight loss results and they want to feel better in their skin. Not everyone, but most. When you go to the gym, you get stronger, you do all these things, everything's going well, but it doesn't necessarily have a massive impact on your nutrition, your sleep, your NEAT, your metabolism to the effect that you might think. They're home from basketball. So, what we did, we then upskilled in nutrition, and then we started to deliver a nutrition coaching course in 2020, actually. So, COVID wasn't all bad. But beyond that, we then started to take on clients, coach them on their nutrition, and help them start to form routines and practices that would work not only in the short term, but in the long term. And it started to have a really good effect on the results that they were then seeing in the gym. So it was just a big piece of the puzzle. And since the middle of last year, that's what we've really launched into is like, okay, well, we can now take this to a wider audience, and that's what we're doing. We used to be bound by postcode. So we're in Melbourne, which is why I'm dressed up like I'm in the Arctic. But we have people in this group who I know are in Perth and Queensland and New South Wales, and that's obviously the power of online. We've created the Strong Parent Project, and here we are today. So enough about us. Moving on. All right. So who, and I will look for facial expressions here, who has just been waiting for a better time to make changes in their health? Like, oh, just when things settle down, or just when things get a little bit less busy, or I'm doing XYZ, or I've got this on, I'll just wait till then. Oh, it's the end of the year, it's busy, I'll wait till January. That first truth bomb of the night is utter nonsense. Okay, because I would ask you to look in the rear view mirror and say, well, when was the last time you weren't busy? When was the last time that things were perfect for you to make a massive overhaul to your lifestyle? And then you would say, actually, yeah, no, it hasn't been perfect for 10 years. Thank you very much. So the key is to find stuff, and I've touched on this earlier, and you will find a consistent theme. I'm going to say the same three or four things over and over again. You need to be able to do it in just a day-to-day life, and you don't need the perfect conditions to make progress. Because as soon as a kid's homesick, or as soon as someone brings a bug home, or something happens, or you get injured at the gym and you can't quite do everything to the 10 out of 10 level that you've set yourself, it all falls apart. We need to be a little bit more resilient than that, and not us as people. Our routine needs to be more resilient than that. Okay, so the key takeaway: consistent effort is going to be much more important than just flawless execution. Okay, now time to talk science. So, who has heard the term metabolism? And I can see everyone just going, yep, metabolism. Most of us would probably say that we might have a slow metabolism, or someone has a fast metabolism, or I have a bad metabolism, or after I turned 40 or 30, my metabolism went in the toilet. But most of us don't actually know what that means. So here's what makes up our daily metabolism. So all it is just the total amount of energy that we burn on a day-to-day basis. And unless you have, oh my goodness, Rani latecomer, guys, greasier, all we have, unless you have, pardon me, Rani, you've thrown me off. Bad effort. Oh, hello. Yeah, in you come. No, it's good. We're just about to break down metabolism.
Well, I was just trying to get Rani off the hook, to be honest.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I'm late.
Hi guys, I can't stay, but trust me when I say he actually does know what he's talking about. So, yeah, enjoy. And hopefully, I'll have a chat to more of you at a later stage.
Right, bye. Leave alone. Yeah, see. Cool, cool. All right. So, your metabolism is just the total amount of energy that you burn on a day-to-day basis. And unless you have access to a science lab, which we don't, and you might, power to you, there is really no way of knowing exactly what that is. There's also not much value in knowing exactly what that is to the number because it changes on a day-to-day basis. If you were to analyze your past week's, activity, you might say, oh, okay, well, I was, on my feet all day that day, and then I was at the desk all day that day, and then I helped my parents at their house cleaning out the cupboard on that day. And obviously, the energy expenditure is going to mirror those lifestyle changes. So, this is not to say that you have to have an exact idea of what your daily metabolism is. However, it is important to have a little bit more of an idea of what makes up the daily metabolism. So, as you can see in this chart, 60% of the energy that you burn on a day-to-day basis, and no one knows this as well, and this drives me nuts, so pay attention. If you've got a notepad, this is what it's for. 60% of the energy that you burn on a daily basis, if you were just lying in bed and did not move and just scrolled TikTok or Instagram or YouTube all day, you would burn 60% of your regular amount of calories. That is just things that automatically happen in our body. Automatic processes, breathing, thinking, your heart beating, blinking, everything in the body takes cost. It requires something to happen. So that's the 60%. The bit that's going to surprise you is going to come at the end. The next 20-ish percent, and this is the bit that flexes the most, this is the bit that changes the most, is our non-exercise activity. Now, what that means is movement that we do in our day that we haven't scheduled like a training session. So think tidying the house, walking the kids to school, cleaning up the garden, fidgeting, walking up and down the steps as you do the washing, like all sorts of little daily activities that we all do that accumulate is the next 20%. Okay. This is why us coaches always bang on about a step count. So, like, that's the easiest way to kind of have a general idea of just how active you are is just by keeping an eye on your daily steps. Okay, the next 10% is digestion. Now, some graphs will lump in digestion into the basal metabolic rate. This graph doesn't, and we don't either. That's okay. It doesn't actually matter that much. That is just taking in food, eating it, bringing it down, digesting it, pooping it out. 10% of your daily energy goes towards digestion. Now, the last part, and this will surprise most people because as soon as people go, most people, not you guys, because you're clever and you're actually finding out nutrition information. As soon as most people decide that they would like to lose weight, they go, oh, I've got to join a gym. I've got to get more active. I've got to move more. Now, that idea is right, but look at the impact that training has on your overall daily metabolism. 10%. So all of that effort that we go into finding is hit the best, is spin the best, is lifting weights the best, only for 10% reward. Now, what would be a better thing to focus on if your goal is fat loss? By the way, this isn't us poo-poo in the gym. You should absolutely be doing some kind of structured exercise. However, it's not the most important thing when it comes to losing weight. The most important thing when it comes to losing weight, if you were to focus on one area, is this part here, which you guys can't see my mouse. That's cool. It's NEAT. Okay. Non-exercise activity. It is taking your step average for the past month, and it might be 6,311, and just add 20% to that. Okay, so 20% more than you're doing. You don't need to do the magic 10,000 because a fun fact for you guys, the 10,000 steps started as a marketing ploy, like everything else, to sell more pedometers. Okay, the character 10,000 in Japan looks like a person walking, so that's where it came from. Now, that's not really based in science. The scientific number for like a good amount of steps is actually 8,000. Everything after 8,000 doesn't have, like, it has a diminishing return effect on your health. You can still do more, but on your health, 8,000 is a great target, just generally speaking. If you currently do 3,000 steps, please don't worry about getting to 8,000 tomorrow. You don't have to. We just need to do a little bit more than we did yesterday. Okay, so the parts of our metabolism that we can control is our NEAT. Obviously, our digestion happens automatically. It's not as though we're going to eat more to burn more. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then our exercise activity, the style of exercise that you do is important, and we're going to get to that at the end. Okay. Now, the bottom point here, you will have noticed what impacts our metabolism. This is where everyone in this group is going to be slightly different. Okay. And this is where there's a little bit of nuance required. And this is where we might have a couple of questions that I can answer after. But there are so many things that impact your metabolism. Genetics being a huge one. Obviously, we can't control that. Age, we can't control that. Menopause, we can't control that. PCOS or any type of other medical, um, things that you might be working through, can or can't control that. Your composition also impacts your metabolism. How much lean muscle you has contributes to your basal metabolic rate. So just keep an open mind, I guess, as to how, calculators that you can find on the internet and things like that, they're not overly accurate. The best way to get a better handle on your own metabolism is trial and error, over the course of a week or 2 weeks, just to kind of see where you might sit. Okay. Next, so the key components of a fat loss routine. So if you guys are ready to just go a little bit more serious than, yeah, I'm just going to eat healthy and move more, which is surface level, and I think we've established not going to get you there. There are some strategies and there are some things that you need to have a better control on than you do currently if you're going to step forward. The first one, and then the non-negotiable, is you have to be in a calorie deficit. Okay, you have to be expending more calories than you're bringing in through food. That is science since the dawn of time. Anyone who says otherwise, it's a giant red flag. End the conversation, walk away. Okay, because it doesn't matter what stage of life you're in, the calorie deficit is still the most important thing. Most of the external factors, if we go back a slide to, the things that can impact your metabolism, they tend to impact more our mindset and behaviors and the way our body responds to certain things, but they do not affect the fact that the calorie deficit is the reason that we are or aren't losing weight. Okay, so that is just the most important thing. Every good plan takes that into account. Now, quality foods is also important because, I mean, it's no good just losing weight and then not actually nourishing our health. Our health is first and foremost. Most people tend to lose weight to improve their health, so you can do two at the same time. Okay, so having quality foods as a part of your diet also naturally can tend to lower the calories. Let me give you a really obvious example. If I swapped my 3 p.m. bag of Smith's chicken crinkle cut, which is my favorite crisp, and then replaced it with a Granny Smith, clearly that's going to tick the box of helping me be in a calorie deficit because it's far less energy in, but it's also going to help me tick the box of eating more quality foods. That's a really obvious example, but trying to have more whole foods in your diet, which are foods that don't have an ingredients list. So think, meats, vegetables, things like that. Okay, that is going to actually help you control your overall calories. It's also going to nourish your health and just help you feel better. Okay, so quality foods is really important. Movement. Clearly, it's important that we move. It's not necessarily important what we do. The inclusion of movement is always far more important than what movement you're doing. Now, if you came to me as a blank slate and said, Sir Ben, I will do whatever you tell me to do on my journey to better health, then I am going to set you up on a routine that I think works and that works for everyone that we work with, and that's okay. If you've seen any of our content or you've read any of our emails or anything, I tend to take a pot shot at Pilates occasionally. Okay, Pilates I take a pot shot at occasionally, and yoga I go really hard at. Okay. It's not because they're bad, it's because they're falsely advertised. Okay. So if you came to me and said, Ben, listen, I know you like people getting stronger and lifting weights and all that type of stuff, but I just cannot live without my reformer bed, then I would say, Alex, keep the reformer bed. I love that you love the reformer bed. Do you know how hard it is for most people to find exercise that they enjoy? If that's what you like, great, do it. Okay, so the take home message is the presence of movement is more important than what movement you do. If you're open to embracing a new idea and a new style of training, then just like everything else, it can be optimized. Okay, sleep, which is a funky one. If we look at the mum in the photo here, she probably battles for it. Now, sleep is one of those things that when we are tired, and this is going to be Captain Obvious information here, but when we are tired, everything is harder. Not only does it actually feel harder, but our body has to work harder. So we have hunger hormones, okay? Ghrelin and leptin. When our body is tired, we have increased levels of ghrelin in our system, which is the hunger hormone. It's signaling to our brain time to eat, even when we're not necessarily hungry. So if you could eat the exact same thing as yesterday and you felt fine, but because you had 4 hours of sleep, you might feel hungrier as a result of that. So sleep and fatigue make it really hard to adhere to the calorie deficit required to actually lose weight. So focusing on trying to get a little bit more sleep than you are currently, it's the same with the steps. The gold standard, if you guys would like to know the gold standard for a healthy adult is 7 to 9 hours. Some people can deal with less, like The Rock and Kevin Hart and all those types of heroes who love 3 hours sleep and smashing out the gym, but you would be in the 1%. Okay. The rest of us, mere mortals, 7 to 9 hours. And stress management, which is probably the most unsexy topic when it comes to fat loss, is how you manage stress. Now, stress is very similar, yeah, like it's a similar thing to sleep. Everything's harder when we're stressed. Okay, our body works harder. It doesn't respond the same way to different things. We don't let ourselves recover as well. We tend to be burnt out, and it just makes the environment, the internal environment, difficult for our bodies. Now, particularly those of you experiencing perimenopause and menopausal symptoms, stress management is incredibly important for those of you in that stage of life. Okay, and it doesn't have to be, light an incense candle and do breath work for half an hour. It doesn't need to like really be quite invasive to your day. It can be very simple things implemented consistently throughout the day. Something like an unplugged walk around the block at lunchtime. That counts as stress management practice. Something like just listening to some music while you do the dishes. It's just little things like that where you can kind of just breathe deeply, lower your heart rate, and just help yourself kind of calm a little bit counts as stress management practice. Okay. Ultimately, the best thing for stress management, though, is sleep. When we sleep well, everything tends to kind of just go a little bit smoother. Okay. So sleep is definitely the big one. Okay. So I just have green tea. All right. Now, this is about as sciencey as we're going to get. Okay. There are other things that we're not going to talk about, like fiber and alcohol. So I'll just touch on those briefly. Fiber, eat more of it. Alcohol, drink less of it. Moving on. All right. So macronutrients. These are what makes up our food, the things inside the ingredients. Now, protein, I may as well have it tattooed over my forehead. Okay. It is for those of us trying to be healthier, stronger, leaner, all of these types of things. It is the most important macronutrient for that goal. It's also the hardest to find in our modern world. Okay. It's not very convenient. It has to be cooked a lot, and not many of us have as much time to cook as our ancestors did. But the way protein breaks down, it's 4 calories per 1 gram of protein, and it is essential for muscle building and repair. Little known fact about protein. If you struggle with snacking, so if you get to 11 a.m. and you're like, geez, those muffins are calling my name, where you get to 3 o'clock and you just can't resist, protein at your meals is going to help curb your hunger for hours, hours and hours. Okay. It is crucial to have a serve, 30 grams of protein with your meals if you are struggling with hunger. It is not essential to the calorie deficit, as in you can still be in a deficit, not eat as much protein. But as you can imagine, being fuller in between your meals probably helps you adhere to that overall deficit. And that's why protein is really important. Anyone who's worked with us here before, I can see Alex, Caroline, Rani, and Elle, you guys would all know just how important protein was in your journey. And like continue to this day, anytime I check in with any of you guys, you'd say, yep, just keep hitting my protein and I'm fine. Most most important thing. Okay. If you focus on one thing only, protein's the big one. It keeps you the fullest for the least amount of calories. Now, carbs, they have had quite the journey in the media over the past 30 years. Sugar is not evil. Rice does not make us fat, neither does bread, neither does pasta or anything like that. What contributes to us gaining or losing weight is the overall amount of calories that we have in our diet. Here's why carbs can be a little bit tricky, is because they are incredibly easy to overeat. Very easy. If I gave you 4 bits of toast, you would put them down without even thinking about it. If I gave you a chicken breast, you'd probably get 3/4 of the way through and go, I'm good. Okay, so whilst they're not bad, you do need to be wary of them. Like if you are surrounded by nothing but beautiful fresh bread every day, it's going to be tempting. It's going to be tempting. So carbs are 4 calories per 1 gram, and they're our body's primary source of fuel. If you guys all remember 10 years ago, the keto diet was in vogue and people were completely against carbs. And we've since kind of probably corrected our wrongs there as an industry and we've come back to carbs being good. Yay. Now, the way we like to think about carbs is that if you have them in isolation, so if you just have a banana at 3 o'clock, great snack. The thing with carbs is that they're rapidly digested. So they enter our stomach and they go out. They're very fast, usable energy. Okay. Which is why they can be effective for endurance events or something to snack on before training. The idea of having a heavy meal prior to doing movement's not very appealing because it'll sit in your stomach and feel like a rock. The idea of just having some sultanas and a couple of almonds is much more appealing because it comes in energy and it goes straight out. So carbs tend to be the most kind of flexible and tactical of our macronutrients. Also, just know they're not essential. You can live and live a long, happy life without carbs. If that's your preference, that's totally fine. You may find your life to be a little bit more miserable, but you will be fine. It's all about your preferences. We have no set rigid structure of what we expect people to do. It's just about what works for you. The two that we focus on are proteins and fats, okay? Because our body can't create those by itself. Our body can create glucose and glycogen inside of it by breaking down other stuff. Now, the fats here, what you will notice straight away, 9 calories per 1 gram. So they are more than double the energy density of carbs and fats. Important for hormone production and just overall health, like skin, the health of our cells, our brain as well. Lots of stuff that we sort of don't need to worry about beyond the surface level of just fats will make me just overall healthy on the inside. Very, very good. Now, fats are also very slow to digest, okay, which is why the keto diet became quite popular, or low carb becomes quite popular because you have less of the carbs, which are quickly digested, and you have more of the foods like proteins and fats, which are slow to break down and slow to exit your stomach. So you feel fuller for longer. The issue with fats, if you just chugging on them all day and you just can't get enough of the peanut butter because it's a healthy fat source, it's so energy dense that it could be hard to stick to the overall amount of calories that you need to eat to reach your goal. Okay, so these are the basics on each of the macronutrients. And the knowledge of these, you don't need to dive in too much further than this to basically be more educated than, 95% of people out there. But you do need to have a little bit of an idea about them so that you can start to construct a plate in a meaningful way that actually serves your health. And that's what we're going to talk about now. So, practical portion control. Now, we don't coach people to count calories. We don't grab out MyFitnessPal or Chronometer or whatever AI app people are using these days to scan their food. We don't like to take food scales to a restaurant because we would feel self-conscious. And if I wouldn't do it, there's no way I'd ask our clients to do it. We have a couple of people who do it through choice. Totally fine. Up to them. We're happy to coach them through that. We, of course, know how to do it. The way that works best for the people who have worked with us and for ourselves personally, just maintaining a healthy diet, is using our hands. Okay. Hand portions, a super simple visual guide that allows you to practice caloric awareness without going over the top and, like potentially feeling a little bit too glued to an app or the scales. Okay. Where you can just eyeball a plate and have a rough idea of what's on it. That is going to be good enough for almost everyone, 90% of the people that we work with to lose weight, feel better, all of that good stuff. We do not need to go any deeper than that. So, the way we look at the ham portions, it always equates to around 150 to 200 calories total, except for vegetables, salad, and fruit. And I'll discuss that in a minute. So, the palm of protein. Okay, if I was to pick up a chicken breast, easiest example, a chicken breast, and I was to look at it, and if it was next to my palm, if I took my fingers and my thumb off in width and thickness, pardon the broken finger, that would be approximately 150 grams cooked, and it would yield, so it would break down into my body to being roughly 30 grams of protein. Okay, which I know is going to be about 150 to 200 calories. What could get it up towards 200 calories is the source of protein. For example, a chicken breast is extremely lean. Now, the word lean means that pretty much the ingredient comes with no fat or very little fat. Okay, whereas we had a pork shoulder last night in our house, roast. That is not a very lean source of protein, which means that a palm of the pork shoulder is also going to come with a lot of fats. So I take that into consideration when I'm kind of managing my plate. I maybe would not eat as much of the pork shoulder as I would the chicken breast because I know it's going to be much more energy dense because of the 9 calories per grams of the fats. Okay, so that's just sort of the simple equation that might run through my head if I was building a plate, which for some of you, you'll be familiar, and for others, it might be like, whoa, that sounds like a lot. And it can be a lot. This is why it takes a little bit of time to practice. I certainly don't expect anyone to kind of hang up from this call and go, oh, I'm enlightened. I know everything. It's all going to work perfectly. There's still a little bit of time to implement and figure out what works for you. Okay. Moving on from the palm, cupped handful. Okay, so if I was to just scoop into a saucepan of rice, which would be weird, but lots of ladles also look like roughly a cupped hand. Now, if it was a heaped cupped hand, then that's obviously taking the mickey a little bit. We're just talking about a nice cupped handful of cooked carbohydrates. Because the carbs and the protein are both 4 calories per gram, that's also going to yield about 150 to 200 calories. Okay. Now, with the fats, because they're so energy dense, if I was to do a cupped handful of fats, it's not going to be 150 to 200 calories. It's likely going to be 700. Okay. Because they're so much more and so much heavier than a light, fluffy, cupped handful of carbs. Okay, so the fats are a thumb. If I look at a thumb, that is roughly 150 calories of fat. Okay, now most people we coach, and ourselves in particular, we don't really try to add a thumb of fats to our meals because in the cooking process, we tend to use olive oil. Olive oil gets absorbed by the food, so there is the fats in our diet. Okay. So it's not something that we typically work on adding for most of the foods that we cook. Okay. Especially for people who have the goal of losing fat, it's not necessarily always a good idea when it's involved in the cooking process to add another 200 calories to the plate, as you can imagine. Over the course of the day, if you did that 3 times a day, that's an extra 600, and that could potentially take you out of the calorie deficit that you're trying to achieve. So, just to make a quick point there, just to reiterate, all meals are different. The cooking preferences of everyone is slightly different. So the way this might look for you is going to be slightly different. I'm just trying to paint a bit of a general picture of a bit of a new way of kind of coming up with a flexible, sustainable style to manage your overall intake without having to scan barcodes and weigh everything. Okay, it's just giving you another little idea of your overall intake and how it might shape your food choices for the day. Now, the starting point, we're going to do a little bit of that tomorrow. Okay, I can't tell you anything for sure, but you will have the tools as to how you can kind of roughly figure out where you might go beyond tonight and tomorrow night to make sure that you have an idea of your intake. So, the power of consistency. Now, I don't want to get a little bit too preachy here. Okay, this is not supposed to be a pep talk. What this is supposed to be is a little bit of a paint the picture of how you can do a great job from Monday to Friday, lose it a little bit on the weekend, and that just completely undoes the deficit that you've created. Okay, so one saying that I hate, but it's kind of relevant to this discussion a little bit, is a moment on the lips, forever on the hips. Now, I'm not going to actually use that saying because it drives me nuts, but what the point I'm going to make is it's very hard to create a deficit and it's incredibly easy to eat your way out of a deficit in literally 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, it does not take much. For example, if I use my own intake, if I created a calorie deficit today and then I got a little bit peckish after our call tonight and had 3 rows of old gold original chocolate, that would be my deficit gone. As simple as that. I could eat 3 perfect meals and all it takes is 3 rows of chocolate to eat into my deficit. So this is where people can kind of think they're doing a really good job. It's like, I'm eating healthily, I'm moving, what's happening? And it's just the little bits, I call them Kmart calories. It's just the little bits that kind of, oh, I've finished my son's toast, or I've done, just, oh, I had a handful of nuts just while I was cooking, or I had, just a little bit of cheese or something like that. Adds up over the course of the day, 50 calories there, 100 calories there, 150 after dinner. All of a sudden, you're at 400 calories. And for most of you, that would be a deficit, and the deficit is gone. And at the end of the week, average 1,930 calories, which might be close to a few of your overall resting metabolisms, and then no progress, frustration. Okay, so the idea that you can be flexible throughout the week and then kind of have a bit of a cheat night or something like that, or yeah, I diet from Monday to Friday, but on the weekends I let my hair down, or we have a bit of a different routine. We need our Sundays to look a little bit more like Wednesdays. But potentially, we also don't need to be too restrictive during the week. And then we get to the weekend and it's like, I'm exhausted. Okay. So everyone is going to look different in the way they apply the science to make it fit for their lifestyle. Okay. And we do have some client examples, some case studies that we're going to look at tomorrow night from clients who we've worked with in the past 6 months, and all of them are different for different reasons as to what was effective for them. Okay, so you guys will be able to relate to, I'm sure, at least half of them, probably all of them, for stages of their journey and little things that we tweaked within their days to help them make consistent progress overall. But speaking from personal experience, this used to be a huge issue for me. Train like a demon during the week, have fun. I was on my nutrition, and then on the weekend, I was like, oh, cheat day, and I wasn't getting anywhere. Okay, so the occasional slip up, like if you have a night out and you have a pizza and a couple of wines, that's not going to be the reason why you get results or don't over the course of 2 months, but it might be over the course of a week. So this is about just understanding where that might sit and then continuing with the plan and focusing on the overall trend and not just the individual days. Okay. But for a lot of people, that can come to overall knowledge, but also accountability. It's like, who's there to help support me through those times? Who there actually has the knowledge and goes, it's all good. back on the horse. Here's what we do, get you through that next 24 to 48 hours and back onto the plan without feeling as though that, that one night out has become a breakfast and a lunch the next day as well. Okay, measuring progress. Now, I would say that I'm generally a pretty calm individual. The one thing that really gets my goat, gets me a little hot under the collar, is when people start a diet and then don't take any measurements or any type of way to measure their progress. That just makes no sense. I understand the psychology behind it. It's a level of, you are opening yourself up emotionally to, potentially failing, which is scary. Like no one wants to try hard for 2 weeks, jump on the scales, take the measurements, and then not actually see progress. That would be a little bit deflating. That's totally normal. However, if you're waiting for your clothes to change, like if you're just using your jeans as a measure, you're going to be waiting a long time. It might take 6 to 8 weeks before you can really notice a difference in your pants and how they fit. And I would ask all of you the question, when was the last time you stuck to something for 6 to 8 weeks? Like, that's a long time. If you can get through 6 to 8 weeks, there's no reason why you can't get through 60 weeks. But the fact is, that initial 2 weeks, that is when you're at your most likely, like your most highest chance of falling off the wagon and then starting again and starting to get into that yo yo. Okay, so people avoid measuring for fear of failure. But I would encourage all of you, if your plan is good enough and you believe in the plan and you believe in the strategy, you have to start taking measurements before you start making changes so you know if it's working or not. Otherwise, you are effectively wasting time until you actually do start to take measurements and you can see the progress. Because if you start to make a few changes and after 4 days you jump on the scales and do a measurement and you're a centimeter down in your navel and 300 grams down on the scales, what do you think that does for your overall motivation? You start to feel pretty good. You're like, hell yes, I'm rolling, I'm going well. Um, so just make sure that if you do have your eye on making some changes, don't just rely on one measurement strategy. Don't just jump on the scales because they can be a little erratic, as we're all aware, especially for the ladies, no doubt. Make sure you've got centimeters, you've got a measuring tape, and the most powerful of all, but the one that takes the longest to see the most amount of progress pictures. Now, I know they can be a little bit intimidating as well. We use them. We highly encourage people to take them, not for any marketing. I think those of you guys who have followed our content, I don't know if you would have ever seen a before and after on any of our pages, but it's for the clients so that they can actually see the changes because you ride the day-to-day battles and you wake up and you see yourself in the mirror every day. No one's going to notice a change like that. That would be quite odd if you could wake up and say, "Oh, I see a difference just on a Tuesday to a Wednesday." But if you hold up photos from June to now, and you'd been, following a routine and structure that you were comfortable in, you would notice and you would feel really good about that progress. Okay, so you do need to risk failure in order to be successful, but you need to trust the plan. So find a plan that you can trust. Healthy fat loss expectations. This is important because we all have that idea of a kilo in our head. A kilo a week's great if I can do a kilo. Now, that's going to be different from person to person. If I was 130 kilos, a kilo a week would be fine. It might even potentially be a little bit slow. If I was 58 kilos, a kilo a week is a significantly higher percentage of my overall weight than the 130. Okay, so the way we like to break it down is a percentage that can be relative across all clients and all stages of the journey. So we consider healthy fat loss to be 0.5 to 1% of your body weight every week. Okay? If you are losing less than that, it's okay. Progress is progress. We are never going to sneer at, 100 grams a week because it's hard enough to lose anything. Okay, that's good. But for the people that we work with, eventually things start to kind of run a little dry. So we would rather kind of strike a balance between seeing results a little bit faster so that you don't have to be in a diet for too long, so that you can switch your overall focus back to general health and wellness. Okay, so lose the fat whilst it's a goal. Try not to let it take too long, but also we don't want to do practices that are going to be so invasive to our lifestyle that it's like, oh, I'm losing 2 kilos a week, but I'm hating everything and I'm a miserable shell of myself. That's not what we want. That's why we've set healthy fat loss expectations at 0.5 to 1%. Okay. Sustainable, gradual progress is the key. Okay. We only want to work through a fat loss phase with clients in our 12-week program once. We don't want to discuss a fat loss with any of you guys at all this time next year. Okay. Whilst it's a goal, knock it on the head and then transition out into a sustainable lifestyle where you don't have to do a diet again. Sustainability is the most important thing. Yo-yoing is really hard psychologically. It's also quite hard on your bodies. If you lose weight and then gain it back, it can make it a little bit harder to lose again. Okay, so the least amount of times that we have to do a diet and a deficit, the better it is for us physically and psychologically. Okay, in the great story of the tortoise and the hare, be the tortoise, right? Just keep stepping along one day at a time. All right. Now, I teased this earlier. What about training? What is the best exercise for fat loss? Well, this is the most unsexy answer ever. It's actually walking. Okay. Walking is the best exercise for fat loss. It's also the thing that's probably least prescribed. Okay. So if you never wanted to join a gym ever and you had in your mind that that was the one thing that was missing from your lifestyle, rest easy. You never have to join a gym if you just want to be a little bit lighter and be healthier. The reason why walking is so powerful is because it's very easy on your joints. It's great for your psychology. Like it really helps our mental health and our digestion and almost every function in the body, but it doesn't make us hungrier. We can go on a long walk and not feel really too many effects when it comes to hunger. Whereas if we do a run or something a little bit more intense that requires a higher level of energy breakdown and recovery demand, it can throw off our hunger signal in a little bit and it can take a little while to get used to. Okay, so just keep that in mind. If you feel as though training is the missing piece, it could be. I'm not saying that in your situation it's not. As I mentioned earlier, everyone is on an individual journey, and it absolutely could be something that helps. And we certainly encourage it for the just the health benefits of being stronger and more resilient, and the benefits on our immunity. No doubt, we should all be training if you're that way inclined. But if you hate it and you hate the gym and you hate squats and you never want to do a push up in your life, that's totally fine by us. That's totally fine. We can walk and you guys will be happy, healthy, and absolutely fine. Okay. Which leads us to our next question. So, if you are training and it's like, well, I'd like to get a little bit stronger and I'd like to build a little bit of lean muscle, but can I do it whilst I'm losing body fat? The answer is yes, but it depends on your training age. Okay. Now, I don't want to dive too far into the exercise science, but training age is basically the amount of years that you've been training in the gym. But here's the thing, not all training in the gym is created equal. If you've been going and sort of, maybe half-assing it a little bit and not really training that hard, then you could still see some real like beginner gains by doing a proper program with proper progressive overload and squats and deadlifts and all sorts of really powerful strength exercises. I would still consider you to be a beginner if you're kind of untapped in that part of training. And yes, you can absolutely build muscle and lose fat at the same time by going to the gym twice a week as a beginner, twice a week on a proper program. Yes, you will kill it. The more experience that you get, so maybe if you're someone like myself who's been in the gym for 15 years, it would be very hard for me after 15 years of training to lose fat and gain muscle at the same time. I would be better off picking one and focusing on that for an extended period of time. Okay, but I would say um, I'm happy to generalize here. I think for most people on this call, yes, that's absolutely a possibility for you. Okay. Now, if you are a blank slate, as you said, and you're like, I am a horse and you can lead me to water and I will drink, what we would get you to do preferably would be to be doing resistance training either at home or in a gym at least twice a week. Twice a week is a great spot to start. The reason with our clients, we tend to introduce scheduled exercise at around weeks 4 to 6 of their journey. That's because most people come to us and they say, I'm really busy and I'm struggling to find time. And we say, that's totally fine. We don't want to overload you with more things to do on your to do list. Once we start to tweak your nutrition a little bit, and then you start to see some positive results from that, and maybe after a month, you're 3 to 4 kgs down, then we can start to look at including some structured exercise as a result of that. And just the benefits of strength training just far outweigh, like, they're so much more broad than other training that you can do. Okay, so lifting weights and walking, if that's all you did, I'm being a little bit hypocritical here as a runner. I enjoy it, but you don't have to do it. It's not better than anything else you can do. Okay, hit training, a little bit of a bugbear of ours, overrated. Okay, so when I came back to, if you'll remember a few slides ago, I spoke about stress management. The older we get, the worse we respond to hit training. When I say hit training, I'm not talking about doing some intervals on an exercise bike. We prescribe that all the time. We think it's great. Improving your VO2 max is awesome. I'm talking about battle ropes, jumping up and down, plyometric stuff, things that might challenge your pelvic floor, things that are so high impact that they have a high risk of injury. And most people who do them have a low base of strength. And if you have a low base of strength and you're doing things that have a high risk of injury, odds are eventually something's going to go wrong. And nothing tends to impact our psychology and mindset towards a healthy lifestyle quite as much so quickly as an injury does. It can really throw us off. So we like to keep our guys healthy. That's the goal, healthy and uninjured. If you love HIIT, again, it's fine. It just wouldn't be our first choice. And if you asked us our opinion and you hadn't started it yet and you were a mind for molding, we would encourage you not to do it and try something else. So this is a big point, and I think it's lost on a lot of people. So, because it can be a hard one to figure out the difference between subjective results, which is how I feel, versus objective results, which is, well, what's actually happening. Okay. And we like to do a blend of both because it's no good feeling rubbish and seeing progress. You guys have more to your lives than just being a smaller dress size. Okay, that's pointless. That's not important. What is important is that you show up as the absolute best version of yourself for everyone else in the house, but also feel good within your own skin. And striking the balance can be quite difficult. Okay, because if you just feel good all the time, but you're not getting the results when it comes to, your overall goals, then we haven't found the balance. Okay, but the balance is possible to find, and that's why we've said here, with the help of little coach Mia, that the results will tell the story. Okay, so we need to take into account what's actually happening. Are you moving towards your goal? And how do you feel? Do you feel energetic? Are you able to sleep well? Do you have energy for training? Are you hungry all the time? These are all questions that we're constantly asking our guys to make sure that the process of them achieving their physical goals is not so invasive on their lifestyle that it's becoming miserable. And I think sometimes we expect fat loss to be far harder than it actually needs to be. Like, it has to be a grind. Like, I've just got to improve my discipline. I just need more willpower. If I just had more motivation, like, all of you here are clearly motivated. You're listening to like a garden gnome talk. It's 9 o'clock at night. Obviously, this is important to you, and that's totally okay. It's not a motivation issue. I promise it's not. It's a plan issue. If you get the plan right, the motivation becomes easy. When the motivation feels really hard, that's usually just means that the strategies you're trying to use are a little bit too invasive for your lifestyle. Just a little bit of food for thought. All right. Does anyone have any questions? Now, I know I've just launched a lot at you, maybe blown your brain up a little bit with all different things about the macros, about NEAT, about anything sciencey. If you'd like to ask a question now, that is totally okay. If you'd like to message me a question after we hang up, again, I will answer it as best I can. That is totally okay. But are we all good? Any questions? I'm just like, maybe the screen's been frozen for 45 minutes and no one's there. Lucky I can see Dina. That's great. Elle has a question. Do you have a question or oh no? Oh, come on, Elle. I was like, hell yeah, ask me a question. You're like just waving at me. All good. All right. If anyone does have a question, totally fine. Message me after. Okay. Now, I have some homework. Okay. I would like you all to message me this, all of you guys here live, message me this in the next 10 minutes. Because if it doesn't get done in the next 10 minutes, it's not going to bloody get done, is it? All right. So, three questions. What is one thing that you have learnt tonight that you didn't know, or that could be the reason that you move forward over the next few months? Number two is what is your dream goal by Christmas? Because that will help me with you on number one. So once I know what you're trying to achieve by Christmas, when you tell me what number one was, I'll tell you if it would actually help or not. And oh no, who knows how to work this? Ah, bugger. The last one. Hold on, let me go to my screen. Do we have any Google Slides experts in the house? Here we go. We'll go back to it. What's the one roadblock that could or currently is stopping you from getting there? Time, motivation, energy, support, often some common ones just to get you prompted. But once we know what your overall goal is, once we know maybe a little bit of an area that could be potentially tidied up, and then what the one roadblock is, then I'll be able to give you an answer on how to get there. Okay, just to be as helpful as I possibly can. So, next steps. Tonight, just a little bit of clarity on the fat loss principles, the reason why you either are stuck or the reason why you are moving forward or the reason why your results maybe aren't as fast as you would like them to be. It's just leveraging the different changes in your bodies. Tomorrow night, we're going to go over the actual strategy, okay? Because people tend to fall into one of two key areas, okay? It is one, I don't know how my body changes. Number two is I know how my body changes. I don't know how to make it work in an actual day-to-day routine. So we either don't know the science of fat loss or we don't know how to make it work for us on a day-to-day basis. And once we can help with either of those, that's when you'll unlock progress. Okay. I would say that most people we speak to tend to be bucket number two, where they kind of have enough of an idea of, okay, well, I know I need to eat less and I know I have a little bit of a general idea around the macros and why they may be important, but I'm not sure how that looks for me on a Tuesday in October. Okay. So we're going to go through some case studies and I'm going to share with you how, some of the clients who have got results with us in the past, how they've done it, and all of them had a bit of a key difference or a key factor that made a big impact on their overall results and their sustainability. But guys, just wrapping it up. If you have any questions, of course, you can DM us anytime. We're here to help. Even if you think it's a silly question, I always enjoy it when people message me going, could be dumb. And I'm like, here we go. It's often not. And if it is, we'll have a laugh together. All good. But that's me done for tonight. Last call on any questions. Otherwise, I will let you go and I will get to work on getting this replay available. Guys, make sure you get the homework questions in. And yeah, if you guys need anything, I'll catch you tomorrow night. We're going to be talking about the implementation. So thanks for hanging out and I'll talk to you guys soon.